Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Friday, January 8th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, who is affectionately known as Coach. And Coach, as we get ready for this 10-game slate, a lot of interesting news, and you've got Dirk looking over your shoulder, getting
That's
us
right.
a slate.
I am ready, man. I am fired up, debuting some of the goods I'm putting up here. Of course, the wonderful Kobe and Michael, my favorite picture of all. And then we've got Dirk gracing us with his presence here, overlooking some things. And Masters hat from the actual Masters, USA basketball from a game we went to in Houston, all kinds of fun memorabilia. I've got some other stuff I'm going to be putting up here. John Wooden for the real old timers, best coach in the history of the world, USA coach, or I'm sorry, UCLA coach. I have a signed card from him I'll be putting up here. And Michael Jordan, when they won their third, the cover of Sports Illustrated. I got so many good things. I was trying to figure out how to fit them all in. But anyway, we're just wanted to touch on that because you'll notice a new background here. We've got Andrew with his line drive single as his first pro at bat, which will again grow to a homer by the end of the NBA season, I would imagine. So, but
That's right.
yes, great 10-game slate. We're getting hot. We've had some good lineups. Really enjoy. I want to give a quick shout out before we get started. I know it's a busy slate, but just really enjoyed the one-on-ones lately. With our members, I love doing that. End up, talking generally for 30 minutes to an hour, and we really, and I want to press that a lot for those of you out, that are listening to us that aren't members and are thinking of coming aboard. But we really do have a complete process at Coach Talk. We're not just a DFS lineup provider. We really believe before you get to that point, you have to have a really, really sound bankroll management and contest selection entire concept built in to what you're doing. And that's what we've been working with all of our members from day one. That mixed with all the work we're putting into these lineups really are producing great results, and not short-term quick hits. We're talking long-term, build your bankroll. So, this is the perfect time to jump in. DFSCoachTalk.com. You can sign up anywhere from a week to a year. Certainly take advantage of our 149 special that we have with BetUS. They're the fantastic partner. And, if you haven't heard that recently, we haven't been playing the commercial here because we're getting the podcast up earlier, but it's still available. And what you do is if you go to betus.com.pa and sign up with the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, and deposit 149, you get a full 149 credit with us, which gets you a membership at DFS Coach Talk all the way until April 1st. So take advantage of that, jump in. We would love to have you, and I know you're chomping at the bit to get going on this 10-gamer, Andrew.
Yeah, well, I'll just add that, if you haven't been winning recently, give us a try. My hybrid lineup has gone 7-3 on the last 10 slates, and the way we rate that is in cash games on FanDuel, and that's the full lineup that we give out to members every slate. So come on in, get that full hybrid lineup, play it, and we'll also teach you what contest to play it in. That's what Coach is talking about contest selection, bankroll management. We have a video that we recorded earlier on YouTube that's for members only, and it's only about contest selection and bankroll management. So we're going to help you slowly build the bankroll, and the lineup does cash in GPPs as well, like last night. So it's not just about trying to double your money. We like the hybrid lineup that can also cash in single entry tournaments. So jump in with us either of those two ways that Coach described. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. All right, so in this 10-game slate, Coach, we have 9 teams involved in a back-to-back. And when I say that, in case there's any confusion, I'm talking about teams that are either playing the second night of a back-to-back or they're at the front end of a back-to-back, because that certainly can affect minutes. So we always like to point that out. We also have 3 game totals over 230 on BetUS. That's the magic number that I've been tracking. So we'll mention those as we go. Game number 1 is Phoenix against Detroit. 7 o'clock tip-off on the East Coast. Lower total here, only 215.5. Phoenix favored by 7.5 on the road. On the Detroit side, the big question marks, Josh Jackson, Derrick Rose, both dealing with a knee issue. Jalen Smith out for Phoenix. So start us off with this one, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not the most exciting game to start with for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you're newer to the show, we'll touch a lot on defensive efficiency, team defensive efficiency, because we build out from that as we're doing our building of our lineups, looking at each team position by position defensively, and also pace of play, because let's face it, we need every extra possession gives a chance for 5, 6 DFS points, an assist, a rebound, a putback, whatever the case may be. So we're looking to maximize every single possession. And, that is part of the problem here. You've got Phoenix 9th in the league in defensive efficiency, which is pretty darn solid. Detroit, on the other hand, is 29th. But you would think Phoenix would be able to really take advantage of that, but they're dead last in pace, last. So, usually when you see a poor defensive team like Detroit, if the other team has somewhat of a decent pace, they're going to really maximize on that. But it tends to even out a little bit more if they're a slower pace, which you can't get slower than Phoenix right now. And Detroit's nothing to really cheer about. They're 16th. So, there are some question marks here that we need to find out health-wise. As you mentioned, some of those guys are going to be key, Rose, etc. And so we got to watch that. However, as far as the big money guys go in this game, specifically Booker, if you're looking that direction, it doesn't feel like a good mix to me. I'm interested to get your opinion. Oubre, I'm frustrated with because he keeps looking like he's going to be okay, and then he still throws a lot of duds on the board. He has gotten better, and his price is still good, but it's a hard pill to swallow. Right now, the only guy
you said Oubre. Who did you mean?
For Phoenix, I'm talking
you mean
about
Mikal Bridges?
Mikal Bridges. Yeah. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay, just wanted to make
Mikal
sure.
Bridges. Yeah, and he's had streaks where he's made shots, and and that's it gets you enticed. But then again, you'll have 15-minute stretch out there where he basically is just running back and forth. So a little concerned there. The guy that I'm interested in from the Phoenix side is DeAndre Ayton. He's been sort of quietly putting up solid DFS numbers. His price isn't crazy, and he's somebody, certainly to consider. On the Detroit side, man, it's hard to really pull the trigger. Grant's overpriced, and just the pace of this game. It's not my favorite game by any stretch, but I am going to give a peek to Ayton. What do you think?
Yeah, well, on the Phoenix side, I think the key word with Ayton that you use there is solid. So to me, he's a potential cash option,
Right.
decent matchup. For tournaments, though, I don't like any of the big three for Phoenix. If you look at Booker, Chris Paul, and Ayton, okay, in their game logs, they've played 8 games, Phoenix. Do you know how many times any of those guys have gone over 40 fantasy points on FanDuel all season? Once. Once for Booker, once for Chris Paul, and none for Ayton. So they just do not have the ceiling because Chris Paul's in the mix. It changes everything. So it's great for the bottom line, their 6-2 winning record, but it's not great for GPP options. So I'm not going there.
Pace of play, man. They're dead last. That's exactly the killer. Yeah.
The one thing I'll say is that the power forward position on FanDuel, my initial build here, I'm landing with an open spot somewhere around 5,000 or less. And so Jay Crowder is one of the guys that's in consideration. I need a 4K power forward. So he's in the mix there. And on Detroit, I'm with you. Grant's the only guy I'll consider, but he's a little bit expensive coming off that career high, 31 points, nice double-double. So I probably won't get any exposure to this game.
Yeah, and you can't roster yourself for Cleveland because they don't play tonight. But,
that's right. I
We
was
had
meant
you on the
twice.
board at 3,500 because they had no other guards left. But then Sexton got ruled in and they bumped you. You had to get back in your car and drive back to Maine.
I was ready for 7x return immediately. All right, game two here. Much more exciting situation, coach. We've got the Wizards in Boston, and this is the juicy total of 233.5 on BetUS. Boston,
Yes.
the 6-point home favorites. Now, with the Wizards, we've got Bradley Beal coming off that 60-point night. Man, that was terrific. The one drawback here is that this is the front end of a back-to-back for the Wizards. And, Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal are both around 10K or over 10K on both sites.
Yeah.
So they're expensive. It wouldn't surprise me if either one of them goes off. Russell Westbrook, 4 straight games with at least 20 and 10, including 2 triple doubles. So he's very solid, even at that price. But I'm more interested on the Boston side because we've got some news here. We've got Tristan Thompson, Robert Williams III, Grant Williams are all out because of the health protocols.
Yeah.
So Daniel Tice is really interesting here. 4,300 on FanDuel. I think he'll get all the minutes he can handle with all those big guys out.
Yeah.
And then I'm also interested in Jaylen Brown and Tatum on the wings because the Wizards are 28th in defensive efficiency, one of the worst teams, and they're fast. They're second in pace.
Right.
So, the Celtics are not fast. They're 22nd, but they have the 6th best offense. So a few more possessions. They're going to keep scoring against that bad Wizards defense. And the Wizards can score too. They're 9th in offensive efficiency because of Westbrook and Beal. So I look at this as a high-scoring game. Hope that the Wizards can keep it close, and I'm going to have a significant amount of exposure to the Celtics.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really like this game. This is one of my favorite games on the slate, which is unusual because it's usually the later games. But I like the mix here. Washington's been competitive and winning a few games here and there. You got to love a team that has a super fast pace and plays bad defense. I mean, that's DFS gold. I'm actually toying with stacking this game, even though it's a 10-game slate of 3 or 4 guys from this game, maybe probably a 2v1. But I really think Tice at his price under the circumstances without all those bigs is really hard to pass up. Bryant doesn't play good defense. He ought to maximize 7x, with his eyes closed tonight, I would assume. So he's going to be in play for me big time. In a game like this, I think you almost have to roster. I know it sounds silly, but you almost have to roster either Tatum or Brown, if not both, because you're not going to get a much better situation than this. You've got a super fast-paced team that plays no D. It's on the first side of a back-to-back, and Boston, they need to get some more wins under their belt. They've been sneaking by and just squeezing by some games. So definitely Tatum or Brown or both will be in my lineup. I don't really want to go 3 deep, so with favoring toward Tice, I'm going to try to make a decision there. And then on the Washington side, I'll tell you, it's Beal's game, as great as it was, really fizzled at the end. He just sort of ran out of gas a little bit in that fourth quarter. They defended him well. But I think just after watching that game, I think Westbrook, as crazy as his price is, may be the play here. Boston's backcourt hasn't been the healthiest with Smart being dinged up, and etc. So, Westbrook looks fantastic. He does. It drives you crazy though, because he almost blew that last game because he insists on taking threes for no reason. And it's just mind-bending because he can't make them. He just doesn't make them very often. And if he stays within his game, though, with this pace and the way he's finishing at the rim and distributing the ball, he's such a 50-burger plus. Now, the problem is you got to have that to make value here. So it is a little gut-wrenching at his number. But, man, it would be so nice to have an early game with like Tatum, Tice, and Westbrook. and enjoy a nice little lead instead of having to catch up all the time.
Yeah, it'll certainly happen if Westbrook has a ceiling game, no doubt about it. All right, game three, coach. We've got another dud. Oklahoma City against the Knicks. Over under only 209.5. Knicks favored by 2.5. Injury news on the Knicks side: Ntilikina, Obi Toppin, Alec Burks still out. Knox is probable, and Nerlens Noel questionable. Pokuševski out for OKC. Any interest in this one?
This is a really rough game to swallow. You know me, with any time the Thunder are playing, even though they won that last one, stuck it in my eye, but they're just the pace, the flow. It's just hard to watch. Defensive efficiency wise, the Thunder are 17th, which isn't bad. The Knicks are 7th, though. I just, again, I'll soapbox it. I don't care. Anytime I can toot the horn of a coach, it's amazing to me, though, if you look at Tibbs and his career, it doesn't matter his personnel, whether it's Jimmy Butler and whomever, wherever he is, whoever he's coaching, whatever the personnel is, you can look back historically, and his teams are always in the top 10 defensively, period. And so you tell me that Knicks team that couldn't stop anybody last year now is a 7th rated team. Again, it's 8-9 games. I get it's short sample, but it's an impact. And his pace of his team is 26th, always in that bottom 10. Same thing. He wants to control the pace, control the game, and defensively step forward. And the guys doing it, Knicks are like 500 or right in that neighborhood and are starting to show some life. Knicks fans getting excited. So, you've got a 17th and a 7 defense, which is scary. Pace, 15th and 26th, nothing to write home about either. Yes, the Knicks and Tibbs play his guys 40 minutes a game, which always makes you want to consider Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, maybe even Elf Payton. Those three specifically are really getting the minutes and the production. However, because of the size of the slate and the options out there with the pace, the defense, and everything considered, I really feel like this is a pass game. I don't want to sit there biting my nails trying to get my nick or two to 5x. So I'm going to pass.
Okay. So I have one price that I like here because I think, yeah, definitely on FanDuel he's only 5,500.
I could probably guess your guys every game. Should let me do it.
I mean, the guy, you talk about minutes, 42 minutes against Utah, 38 fantasy points.
His backups are dinged up too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of these guys that they're not pricing up on FanDuel. So I'm going to take advantage of it.
I know. I don't understand why they're not moving him. It's bizarre.
We'll take it. So Randall, I love, but too expensive. RJ Barrett, the same thing. One guy to keep an eye on, Mitchell Robinson. Okay. The last 2 games, he's had 6 and 5 stocks. He's averaging 33 DraftKings points in those 2 games, and he's 5,700. So he's giving you right around 6x, gaining a little confidence, gaining some minutes. So this might not be the slate for him, with Tice being 1,400 cheaper, but just keep an eye on him.
I'll tell you, by me saying this, he's probably a guaranteed fouling out tonight, but he's actually had a little stretch of 3 or 4 games where he doesn't look like he panics and picks up that 4th foul like a crazy man. So I think he's starting to get it. And that, like you said, with the stocks he has every time he plays, he's always got to be a consideration.
Absolutely. All right, game 4, we've got Charlotte and the Pelicans, and it's LaMelo against Lonzo.
Yes.
And man, this is just amazing how this has happened. I can still remember watching LaMelo over in Lithuania. It felt like yesterday on Facebook.
I remember him watching them play together at Chino Hills. That wasn't that long ago either.
And all of a sudden, they're matching up in the NBA. And then who would have thought preseason that coming into this game, LaMelo would be more expensive than Lonzo on both sites?
Unbelievable.
He's been more consistent than Lonzo, getting good minutes. The problem is this is the most expensive he's been. So you figure he's going to be up, certainly ready to go against his brother, but I'm not really excited about paying the price tag. So I don't think I will. You look at the game environment, and Pelicans again are slow. and they're very good on defense this year. They're fifth in defensive efficiency.
Coaching.
Both teams are bad at offense in terms of efficiency, 27th and 25th. Charlotte has good pace. They're 10th in that department. But, not thrilled about this game. Hayward is in play for me, coming off that 44-point game against Atlanta. So that's terrific. He's still a reasonable price, especially on FanDuel. And then Brandon Ingram is a decent price on DraftKings. He's probably the guy I would look at, if anybody. And then the news here with the bench with the Pelicans is that Redick is questionable. If he doesn't play, you could look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who got 27 minutes against OKC in the last game, 13 points, 5 rebounds, and an assist at 3,300 on DraftKings. Great candidate to smash value if Redick is out.
I think that's a great point. He's my value play in this game as well. Maybe not quite going to make the cash cut for me, but it's certainly a great GPP play. I agree with you. I mean, he is a points per minute guy when he gets the opportunity to play. It's just you're not guaranteed his minutes. So we definitely need to keep an eye on the Redick news there. I'm not going to buy into the Ball narrative here. I think they're both overpriced. I know, Lonzo's lower than LaMelo, but I don't want to pay up for either one of those guys. You got a 13 and a third defensive efficiency, 2 teams in the top half. That's not great. And New Orleans is definitely, Van Gundy's playing control ball, similar to like Tibbs is, controlling the pace of the game. So I'm not thrilled about it. I've been on the Gordon Hayward bandwagon like a maniac with his usage and everything. We brought him up several times and he's really producing. His price is now getting a little bit cumbersome though. The one guy that I sort of like here, and you didn't mention him and I wanted to know your opinion on it. I definitely value it, but I'm thinking about Zion. Everybody's talking about the balls and all this stuff. And I think Zion may have the balls here. You know what I'm saying?
He might. He might. I'm never going to bet against Zion. I love his game. So it makes sense to me.
It's not bad.
It's fair. So to me, it's a fair play. He's not really getting the ceiling games. He's been pretty consistent. You can feel good about 40 fantasy points, but he's not getting the ceiling games like Ingram can get here. Right. So that's why if I'm going to play one, I probably would pay up for Ingram.
And though, you got to remember too, with he's not a great player, but he's a big presence. As Zeller has been out with that busted up hand. So really, they have an undersized Biyombo playing center, and then they'll play PJ Washington at center a bunch of times. So they are very susceptible in the paint. And I'm just thinking Zion might want to crunch a couple of dunks in there, but we'll see.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's a good game.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Game 5, down towards your neck of the woods here. We've got Orlando against Houston, and they're actually on the front end of a back-to-back. They're going to head over to Dallas on Saturday, make the Texas swing here. This total is 225. Houston favored by 6. In terms of the injury news, Markelle Fultz, unfortunately, out for the season.
Yeah,
that's a real shame. Michael Carter-Williams is also out. So we've got Cole Anthony that we need to discuss. Fournier is questionable with the back. It seems like he might go the Anthony Davis route this year and just be questionable every single game. On the Houston side, Daniel House is out. And then the other big news here, Christian Wood questionable with the knee.
That's a big news there. Is there any news on Michael Carter-Williams?
I've got him out.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
So are you interested in this game?
My very favorite play on the board is in this game because of the value, because of what I see as the usage and the minutes. I think the first guy in my lineup today is Cole Anthony. He's going to play almost all the minutes at point. He's playing well. His shot's going to come along, but he's seeing the floor. He's not turning it over crazy like a rookie does. I just love his value in this game against a questionable Houston backcourt defense. And defensive efficiency-wise, Orlando's 4th, but Houston's 23rd. So I think Orlando can take advantage of that. If Christian Wood doesn't play, it brings Vukovic much more into play for me. I think this may become the Anthony Vuk game for me, dependent on that news. And, from a pace standpoint, they're both in the middle of the pack, 14th and 17th. So, it's a little bit tougher for me on the Houston side because now we're in that, okay, is Harden going to be able to pay value with Wall getting his minutes? Cousin needs the ball a little bit. But, I I would assume we need to go back to the well if Wood doesn't play to Cousins again because his price and he was what for us 10x or something. So, if Wood sits, this could be the second most important game for me on the night with Anthony, Vuk, and Cousins.
I agree. If Wood sits, I'll go back to Cousins at that price. I had him in every single lineup last slate. Love that 10x. And so it's going to be tough on FanDuel to pick between Cousins and Tice.
It is.
On DraftKings, obviously, you can play both. In fact, Tice is also power forward eligible on DraftKings.
Yeah. Yahoo as well. Yeah.
You could get a third center if you want. On the Orlando side, Cole Anthony, I love the opportunity for him here. My big concern is looking at these numbers. He's 30% on the season field goal percentage and 19% on three-pointers.
Yes.
The saving grace could be that if he gets to the line, he's 95% there, which I really like out of a point guard. At 5,000, I think he makes sense for cash. I'm not ready to put him in 100% of my lineups, but I think, it's funny for me, I think he's actually more of a GPP play.
See, I think he's safe because I really truthfully think he's going to play 35 minutes. And, if Michael Carter-Williams was playing, I wouldn't be as strong about it, but he really doesn't have a true legit backup that they really can count on. And watching him, even though his percentages are bad, which is fine because that'll keep his ownership down, but he's not afraid to take the shots. He's just not quite making them yet. I think, he's also a finish at the rim guy too. So I'm with you. I know it seems risky for cash, but I feel like his floor is very, very safe at that number.
He's going to be an interesting guy on this slate. One other guy I want to mention, Aaron Gordon, only 6,600 on DraftKings. Yeah. Last 3 games, 28, 28, and 27 minutes. I think he could do well in this game environment. So I've got my eye on him as well. So we've got a lot of interest in this one for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, a good DFS game. I really do. We really need the Wood news to finalize what we're doing.
Yes, we do. So of course, follow us on Twitter for updates at DFS Coach Talk. While you're there, you can follow the coach at JoeSarvadi. You can find me at Language Olympic. And our man Sugar Shane is at DET Sports Shane. All right, Coach, second half of the slate here. Game number 6 is Brooklyn against Memphis. This is an 8 o'clock Eastern tip. Lower total here, only 218. Both teams coming in on a back-to-back. Brooklyn favored by 2.5. Right now, as we record this, Kyrie is officially doubtful. We both think he's not going to play for personal reasons. Kevin Durant continues to be out. So it's another Karis LeVert opportunity. He was terrific last night as chalk. He paid off, almost had a triple-double in 32 minutes. I think he can do it again here against Memphis. They're 14th on defense. In terms of pace, Brooklyn's pushing it. They're 4th. Memphis is in the middle at 18th. And then Brooklyn has really been efficient. Whoever they've had out there, they're second in the league in offensive efficiency. It's like whoever they get the ball to is just tremendous because he's got shooters all around him. So I'm ready to play LeVert again. And, the value plays there are in play for me again. Joe Harris really went off last night, 30 minutes off the bench, a huge fantasy night. He's only 4,900 as a small forward on FanDuel. And then TLC, he got over 6x off the bench with 26 minutes. He's in play at a good price. Chris Chiozza, I know some people played him yesterday at minimum price. He got about 8x return in his 16 minutes. He could have similar production here, similar minutes on the second night of a back-to-back. You could go there. And then on the Memphis side, not really interested in anybody there. Melton, he was good for us on DraftKings. Yesterday we locked him in. He got almost 7x. He was a fire symbol. That's what we're looking for. He's still a good price, but you've got some other value guards today, so I don't think you need to go there on a 10-game slate. How are you looking at this game?
Well, I mean, we talk about it all the time. There's good chalk, bad chalk, and then chalk that you just have to eat regardless if he's 110% owned. And that's Karis LeVert. I mean, if you don't put Karis LeVert in your lineup and you're playing cash, you're just doing it wrong. I mean, you have to play him. There's several reasons. One, just the usage numbers are beyond belief with Kyrie and Durant off the floor for LeVert. I mean, he handles the ball. Basically, everything goes through him. He's going to get, so, but here's the key. Even if he just has a mediocre game or very average, you have to have him as a blocker in case he does get you that 60-point fantasy game. Because if you don't play him, and he's probably going to be 80% owned, something crazy like that, even on a big slate like this. But if you don't have him and he gets that 60, you're chasing your tail right from the get-go. If he just does average, it doesn't kill you because everybody else has him. So unfortunately, it's one of those scenarios with all the Brooklyn injuries that you just plug LeVert in and don't even think about it, as, on all sites and all formats. So I think that's a no-brainer. You certainly can go other, spots. Harris coming off the bench, playing good minutes, doing well is a fine play. I know TLC and some other guys can go off, but for a cash player, for me, it just becomes so nerve-wracking at times with guys like that because one game they'll get a bunch of opportunity and the next game they won't, and it's it's really tight. But a couple of the Brooklyn plays are fine for for GPPs, but I think you just start and end with LeVert on cash and not even stress it from there. On the Memphis side, I do like how they're building him up, and we've talked about that on the last couple of pods, and he's getting more minutes, and he will be a pretty good focal point with Ja being out for so long. Your other option there, if you want to go inside, Brandon Clark had a fantastic game the last time out. He's can be hit or miss, though, as well. More of a real nice GPP play. Joe Val has been, with Jen getting minutes, there's been a lot of rotation there. Brooklyn with the combination of Jared Allen, and Jordan and even Green, they've done very well defensively. I mean, top 5 in defensive efficiency. And so I'm not comfortable with really rostering Memphis in this game in particular. I think I definitely take LeVert. If there is a cheap way or I need the value, I could look at a Harris, possibly a Melton, and, if need be, Clark's come up a little bit in cost. But, you can look there, but I don't think it's a focal point game beyond LeVert.
Okay, agreed. Let's turn to Milwaukee because that's where the Utah Jazz are going to play the Bucks tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern. Then this is one of our games over 230 on BetUS. It's 231.5. Milwaukee favored by 5. They're on the front end of a back-to-back. They're going to host Cleveland tomorrow.
Doesn't that number seem low?
Well, it feels about right. It's a game that I'm interested in for the total. So, I'm fine with that. I might go over it.
It seems like Utah struggled and Milwaukee at home is just such a monster. I don't know.
Oh,
if I played a game on the slate, I'd take Milwaukee -5 personally.
Yeah, I mean, Utah is struggling. They've lost 2 in a row on this road trip in New York. So they need to pick it up for sure. In terms of the injury news, we've got Pat Connaughton out. Sam Merrill is probable. And then with Utah, Favors is probable. And Joe Ingles is questionable. So that could really change some things. Break this one down for us.
It's really difficult for me to figure this game. Like I say, I generally picture the lines in my head before I look at them to, see if there's a massive discrepancy. And I had Milwaukee at about 8.5, which is a big, to be 3.5 off is very unusual for me. So I like Milwaukee in this game. Giannis is so great. It's just not even funny, but it's so hard on a slate this big to pay up, that high, especially if I'm going to be spending a good chunk of my change in that Washington Boston game. So as much as I'd like to take him, you know, certainly Giannis gets the majority of his points at the rim. Gobert is the two-time Defensive Player of the Year, protecting the rim. So if there's a reason not to play Giannis, I guess that's it, which isn't much of one. But I'm trying to reason with it in my brain of not rostering him. So I'm going to use the Gobert protecting the rim excuse for this one. Other guys you can look at for Milwaukee, certainly Middleton's been very, very steady. He's been getting it done. Donovan Mitchell is in play, especially with the pace in this game. Milwaukee's fifth in pace. Utah only 22nd. But the defensive side, Utah's 18th. Milwaukee's out of the top 10. They're 12th, which is the first time for a year and a half in Bud's coaching there that they haven't been in the top 10 defensively. So there's probably going to be points that the line suggested as well. Bogdanovich has been stepping up in certain games. You can give him a look. I'm not dancing in the streets for any of these guys, but I certainly will take a second look at Mitchell, Bogdanovich, and probably Middleton. I'm disappointed in DiVincenzo, by the way. I watched him the other day. Just didn't like his performance for what it's worth.
All right. Big demerit there for sure.
Yeah.
I do like Mitchell's price is getting better. It's in the 7K range now. Starting to be worth considering, but he just hasn't had the ceiling games with Conley in the mix. So not really excited about the guards for Utah. We should have a little bit of value if Ingles is out. We should get some more minutes, more usage for O'Neal, Bojan, maybe even Niang off the bench. So, maybe those guys sneak their way into a lineup. But you really need Utah to pick it up and have this not be a blowout to really be interested in this game. And Giannis, this is a situation where I was hoping to be able to play him here, but because it's the front end of a back-to-back and his price, to me, he's GPP only. I'm going to think about maybe getting him in the lineup, but again, it needs to stay close in the front end of a back-to-back for him to get enough minutes to pay off that value.
I'm with you, and that's a very good point too. They certainly don't extend him minutes-wise. There's no doubt.
All right, let's head west for the 10 o'clock tip-offs. First up, we've got the Clippers against Golden State. 231 total, and Clippers favored by 5.5. And Coach, we had it last time. We told people the 1.5 line was just not enough. And here we've got the rematch, and now we've got Curry questionable with the ankle that he twisted late in that game. So I mean, this could really turn into a blowout if he doesn't play because the Clippers are finally healthy. In terms of the numbers, both of these teams are in the 20s in terms of defensive efficiency.
Yeah,
and
surprising.
Golden State number 1 in pace. But of course, that's primarily because of Steph Curry. So the game will just change dramatically if he's out. Clippers are slow this year. They're 29th. They're passing a lot. That's part of the reason. I saw a stat that their number of passes per possession has gone up dramatically. But they still get it done. They're third in offensive efficiency. So with everybody back healthy, at least in the rotation for the Clippers, in a potential blowout, if Curry is out, I'm not looking to play any of them. Pat Beverly would be the one option you could look at. He's had 28 to 33 minutes in 4 straight games. So he's getting a few more minutes than he was getting last year, but he's still really cheap. So that's something you could look at. And then if Curry's out, well, you don't like the Golden State chances of really contending in this game, but Wiggins should get more shots. Oubre should get more shots. Curry is averaging over 20 field goal attempts per game. So somebody's going to have to get those shots up. Brad Wanamaker would come into play as a value play. He's only 3,300 on DraftKings. I think you could look there if he's going to be in the starting lineup.
Well, I mean, this game, I won't waste a ton of time talking about it because it's all dependent for me on Curry. So, if you want to roster Curry and do late swap, this is a perfect spot to be able to do that. There's plenty of guys in the Chicago, LA, and Toronto, Sacramento game that you can switch to. But if Curry plays, I think he's very playable. I know he'll get some Pat Bev defense, but I'll tell you, the Clippers, of all the stats so far this year, even though it's small sample size, 9 games or whatever, the fact that the Clippers are below 20th in defensive team efficiency is shocking. I think they could play blindfolded and finish in the top 5 with that group of defensive wizards. I mean, if you look at their roster, it's just insane. When you talk about George and Kawhi, both NBA Defensive Players of the Year, you add a block in there and all these other guys. I mean, it's hard to believe they're playing that poor defensively. So, with Golden State's pace, you got to love that. And, if Curry plays, I think it stays closer. This is a definite game. You could lean on some people, and make a 2 or 3 game play here with guys and feel comfortable with it. If Curry doesn't play, this game could easily blow out, with the back-to-back scenarios, resting guys. Then it becomes, a little bit concerning there because, again, on a slate this big, you really can't afford taking a guy and then he doesn't even see the floor in the fourth quarter. So I would say, if you want a guy or two from this game, I support that, but you're going to have to plug them in, have a game plan for switching to whoever, Levine or whomever you're going to, rotate to in one of the other later games. And then you have to follow closely. Follow us. We're in Discord throughout the entire night talking about, players, information when it comes out, whether they're in or out. So it'll be very interesting, but I think it's really news is extremely important in this game. I think Curry affects the whole outcome.
Yeah, with Curry, I guess I look at him a little differently than you today. I wouldn't put him in my player pool because of the questionable issue with his ankle and because just watching that game, the first matchup here, the Clippers threw a lot of double teams at him. So many good defenders. He struggled with his shot. So I'd rather pay up elsewhere on this slate. But that's a great point in terms of the news with our Discord. And last night was a perfect example where our man Tyler Pitzer posted that news about 3 minutes before tip-off that Colin Sexton had been scratched.
Yeah.
And, we're looking for every single edge for our members. And that's why we're all on the pulse of the news and sharing that information with each other. We even have members who will share information that they see, different tweets.
We're a family in Discord.
No
We've
doubt
got
about
each
it.
other's back. And I want to echo what you said because, in the last month or so, we've added, 2 hugely key important pieces to our Coach Talk team, and that being Tyler Pitzer and Joe Stanton. I mean, they are doing such a fantastic job in Discord and in social media of letting people know what's going on. And so big shout out to those guys. They're doing a great job.
Amen to that. All right, Coach. 2 games left. We've got the other Lakers, the other LA team here, the Lakers hosting the Bulls. Lakers coming off that loss to San Antonio, and they are 9.5 point favorites against the Bulls, over under 225.5 on BetUS. The news here, we've got KCP questionable for the Lakers, AD and LeBron questionable as usual, and no big news that I'm seeing on Chicago. So if we get everybody involved in this one, anybody stand out to you?
Well, I'll tell you, I shout out to Vegas, man. They know their lines. I mean, the buzz was, why is the Lakers line so low against the Spurs if both LeBron and AD are playing it? The line made you believe one of them was going to sit. And, when they didn't and San Antonio led the entire game, Vegas knows their stuff. So this is one of those scenarios again. I feel like I'm passing the buck on this, but it's the NBA and it's the way it is. It's different than Major League Baseball, NFL. It's all news driven. And if you're later games, that's why all the sites do late swap, because it was just overwhelming when you would see guys sit and you had to take zeros. It just wasn't fair. But this is another game. Do we know that all the Lakers are going to play on a back-to-back? Davis and LeBron were questionable yesterday and both played. Is there limited minutes? All of those things have to be considered here. I think the Chicago side is safer. I mean, if you roster either Kobe White just murdered it for me last game. He is playing really good ball. I like him in this matchup. And I have no problem with Levine as well. I think he's going to get a lot of shots up. We've seen that the Lakers' defensive efficiency, which was number one almost all of last year, has dropped to 6, which, is a drop. And a lot of that is because what we said, if you look at the perimeter defense, losing Green, losing Bradley and such, it's definitely changed their defensive, scheme on the outside. As good as Schroeder's been on offense, he's still not a great defender. And, you're a little bit more able to score in the backcourt. So I like both Bulls guards. It's hard not to. Not that I'm going to stack both of them, but I think they're both well in play. And then I think you just got to watch the news on the Lakers, because if LeBron or AD sits, you got to play the other one. It's just pretty common knowledge in those situations. It's somewhat automatic. So, that changes shuffles your deck. Maybe you sit a Tatum and then start an AD or LeBron, whatever. But you got to keep those things in mind. Now, if you're looking at late swap again, and I don't mean to be repetitive, but it's a key factor in winning and taking down these NBA contests, because if you want to build a lineup, and for me, I may, with Curry and LeBron in there, and then all of a sudden those two guys are out, you have to have a plan of how you're going to fill that in. Is it a Kyle Lowry in this late game? Is it, maybe Kawhi or Paul George in that Clippers game? You got to look at all the different possibilities there and be prepared to pivot, because the last thing you want to do is set your lineup and then you have to do the pivots and then you're stuck leaving like $1,000 on the table. I mean, you can win that way, but it's not ideal. It's not maximizing your potential. So if you can get within $200 to $400 and you got a plan if people sit, then that's really the way to go and the way to, strategize it out, especially when we have questionable guys in these late games like we do.
Yeah, and I see this game similarly. The guards for Chicago still in play for me. They're both cheaper on FanDuel, which is nice. And then Kuzma, if he starts on FanDuel, he's only 4,100. Compare that to 55 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
And 2 games ago against Memphis, he didn't pay it off with that opportunity. But against San Antonio, double in 30 minutes. So I would consider 4,100 for Kuzma if he's going to start again.
Especially if one of the big boys sit for LA, no doubt.
Exactly. All right, last game of the night, we've got Toronto against Sacramento, 10 o'clock tip-off. This total is 225. I kind of like this game. This is the only game on the slate, believe it or not, with both teams above average in pace. Toronto is 8th, Sacramento is 13th.
Yes. Isn't that strange? It never happens that way. But
a lot of mixtures tonight, but this one we've got some pace. Toronto, the 5-point favorites, and they've got to be the best team in NBA history that's 1-6 in terms of all that talent they've got. So they need to get this one in a big way. Sacramento is on the front end of a back-to-back, and De'Aaron Fox is questionable. He obviously left that last game early with the hamstring issue. So that's another enormous piece of news. If he is out, then it's going to be tougher for Sacramento to compete. And we've got some potential value with Halliburton at a fair price, and even Corey Joseph under 4,000 on both sites. I like both of those guys as potential plays if Fox is out. I like how Bagley stepped it up after this spat in the media. He looked aggressive. He played his most minutes last game, had 21 and 12, 45 FanDuel points, and he's under 6,000 on both sites. You could go there. And we do have Rashawn Holmes also questionable. He didn't practice yesterday with an ankle, so there could be some more minutes there for other members of the front court. On the Toronto side, I like these guards here. against Sacramento with this pace, and Sacramento is 24th in terms of defensive efficiency. So it's a good spot for Lowry and Van Vliet, both in play for me. And your man Siakam really stepped up against Phoenix, got over 30 actual points, which is what you need because if he's going to score 30 points, he's going to mix in a bunch of rebounds and some other stats. So
Stocks. Yeah.
he could be in play for me as well. So the thing is, if Fox plays, you could stack this game with 3 or 4 guys, and if he sits, definitely some value is going to open up.
Yeah, I love this game. This is my favorite late game. After the Washington-Boston game, is probably my second favorite game on the slate. I don't think Fox plays, and I'm going to prepare that way. Again, I don't have any news other than questionable like you guys do, but you have to make some assumptions, especially with all of these questionable moving parts. But I just don't think he plays. A hamstring can be bad, and if he really aggravates that, he may be out a month. So I can see with a hammy that he sits. I love Halliburton in this game. I think the kid has played with more poise than anybody that's been drafted. I really do. I think he's got a chance, if he gets all of this opportunity like this, to be a Rookie of the Year possibility here. I like him in this matchup. I like the minutes he's going to get. And I like his price. So, for a cash player to have 2 rookie guards in Halliburton and Cole Anthony, seems very GPP-ish and risky. But I think they're both safe. I think if Fox sits, I just think that their minutes are safe and their production is safe. Toronto, again, we warned right from day one, they can't play at home. They're playing in Tampa. It's got them all jacked up, I think, and just not playing to the best of what they can do. And like you said, when you have the combination and ending up being the 2 fastest teams pace-wise, that also ranks 16th and 26th in team defensive efficiency, which this is first time Nurse has ever been in the bottom half since he's taken over the team on defensive efficiency. So, that makes guys in play for me. I love Halliburton. I love Bagley. I think Bagley is Bagley is a talented guy that just needs minutes from Walton. And the fact that Holmes is dinged is even better. So I love those guys. Their prices are right. I think they're both very playable. On the Toronto side, I just look right dead at the top 3 guys and want to have 1 or 2 of them, and that's Lowry, Van Vliet, and Siakam. Siakam I've been riding him this season, the redemption season somewhat for him after his horrible performance, sort of like Paul George. Those guys have been stepping up on a consistent basis. So again, I know all 3 of them are expensive, but when you look at the pace and you look at the potential of this game, especially if we're going to have some of these other guys that are questionable sit out, I'm very comfortable rostering 2 of those 3 Toronto guys and maybe even coming back with 2 on the Sacramento side. So this game in Washington-Boston will be my most exposure tonight. And then we'll see how the rest of this news folds out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Fun 10-game slate. So, Coach, wrap it up for us.
All right, man. We really appreciate you. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, I know we've been talking about this live streaming thing. It is coming. We're working on it. You got 2 challenged guys when it comes to this kind of thing. So we're going to make it work. The big announcement is we're going to do the podcast every day, whether it be in a podcast form or live stream, right around lunchtime. We're going to be consistent with it. We're going to be posting it then early afternoon every day. This way you have all afternoon to check it out, your ride home from work, plenty of time before lock. So if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. That's very important to us. Hit that alert button so you know when these posts every early afternoon. And subscribe. That is also huge. It gets us, in that algorithm with YouTube. So we really, really appreciate that. That's important. And then you can catch us every day. We're 7 days a week. We're going to be early afternoon posting this every day, give you a chance to really build some info. And then what it comes down to is jump in with us, dfscoachtalk.com, and, get in our Discord. We're in there all afternoon as all this player news rolls out. We're locking a lineup in with the thought of making some late swaps, and then we'll follow it through the evening as well. So we'd love to have you. We want to be consistent with this so you guys know when to check us out. So, Andrew and I have both committed that we're going to get this sucker up, posted early afternoon every day so that you have the opportunity to check it out. So great job. Awesome lineup last night, by the way. I forgot to give you congratulations on that, Andrew, on the front side. Love that squad that you put out there last night. And now we're going to try to double barrel and hit it again tonight. So great stuff. Enjoyed it. We're always going to try to keep it under an hour, even in the monster games like this, which we've accomplished today. So hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. We're all there. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane. So we loved it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you take some big stuff down today. And we'll look for you again tomorrow as we look to crush it in DFS.